Myles Garrett, Aaron Donald, Micah Parsons. It feels as if every one of those at one point this season had the upper hand. TJ, for whatever reason you want to say, whether it was the injuries, whether it was the games where he left before halftime and people were like, well, there were all the Green Bay, man. What about Green Bay? He didn't play in Green Bay. What made him – how did it – it's a tough question. Like, if this was a normal year, and by normal year, I mean last year or the year before that, where it wasn't a record-setting year for TJ Watt, it would be pretty safe to assume that for some reason or another, the NFL would find a way to not give him the award. Mm-hmm. The sack, is that the only thing that sets it apart, or is this year TJ just like a little bit different?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think TJ Watt hit a brand new level of football that we haven't seen from him. Mind you, right after getting paid the bag, where players sometimes tend to drop off in terms of their play and production. TJ Watt said, nah, I'm here. Shot up his production. And then, like, how can you not give somebody Defensive Player of the Year when they tie the single season sack record
in 15 games?
Arguably could have broke it, depending on your interpretation of said play, where he could have got it.
Yeah, true.
While missing 2 games. And granted, They did have the extra game onto the regular season. But you know what? With TJ Watt missing a total of 2, brings it back down to 1. Boom. Math. Community college dropout. I win.
Boom.
So, like you said earlier, Myles Garrett, there was a stretch where everybody had thought he was going to win it. Aaron Donald, every week of every season, deservedly so, by the way, deserves to be in these conversations for Defensive Player of the Year. They might rename the award after him whenever it's all said and done. Who knows? Micah Parsons is very well on his way to becoming one of the best defensive players in the league. So there's a time period where it wouldn't have shocked me, if he was a front runner for it. But man, like this award, especially after the last 2 years, where you could make really strong arguments that TJ Watt was essentially robbed of the play. We could be talking about the 4th player ever in NFL history behind Lawrence Taylor, Aaron Donald, and brother JJ Watt to win the NFL's Defensive Player of the Year award 3 times. And I believe he would have been the only player to win it back to back to back. But you know what? Like Mike Tomlin already says, standard is a standard. We don't live in hypotheticals. TJ Watt did not win it in years past, but 2021 is a different story.
I agree. And I think that it kind of all calmed down. Like year 1, it was, well, Stephon Gilmore made every play. He was the best cornerback. Like it's a passing league, blah, blah, blah. Year 2 was, well, it's Aaron Donald still. Aaron Donald's still the best player in the NFL. And for some reason, that just overruled everybody. And then year 3 rolled around and everybody was just like, all right, well, TJ's not healthy. He's not playing that. And everybody's just like, shut up. Stop talking. Watch him on the football field. Watch what he does every single time, because I think that was it. I think for 3 years, TJ Watt and the Pittsburgh Steelers were TJ Watt and the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I get that there are Steelers fans all across this globe, and there are probably more Steelers fans than any other football team fan base out there. But when it comes to football, when it comes to who's watching who on Sundays, people outside of Steelers Nation are not turning on a Steelers game. That's just, for one, half of the NFL hates the Steelers. Yeah. You ask Cowboy fans, Eagles fans. I mean, my dad's a Broncos fan. Dude hates Steelers. Hates the Steelers fan base, hates me most of the time. Like, that's just how it is. So if you're not a Steelers fan, you're not watching a Steelers game, and that takes away. Whereas in the Rams, universally just, nobody really cares, but we'll watch them. Aaron Donald is who he is. The New England Patriots, it was still Tom Brady's year. So obviously everybody's watching the New England Patriots. And this year, finally, maybe it was Ben's last run. Maybe it was the fact that, he did set the record, but you just couldn't take your eyes off TJ Watt. And anybody who tried to argue, well, just kind of got shut down as just in like, no, please just go watch. And I think that was needed for 3 years. I think this is good that it happened this year. Is this the beginning of many? Like back to back to back could have been. Is it too late now to say, well, back to back to back could be?
I don't want to say too late because I don't want to say very good chance. There's a small chance that TJ Watt could again hit this record number next year. There's no signs of him slowing down. And that's assuming that he doesn't miss 2 games next year and he plays a full slate of regular season games. So That's a
Plus
scary
2
thought.
games that he left before halftime.
Yep.
That seem to get overlooked.
That's a scary thought, just in terms of what he might be able to do. Because there was like a lot of people that were kind of wary whenever Bud Dupree left, where it's like, okay, well, like, can Alex Highsmith kind of fill that role? I feel like nothing changed in terms of how teams approach TJ Watt. And I feel like nothing changed in terms of how TJ Watt was successfully able to get to the quarterback time and time again. Really, the only argument I've like heard against them, and it's like a super weak argument, is he takes a long time to get to the quarterback, whereas like his like time to like pass or whatever like advanced stat that is, it's probably like Myles Garrett, guys like Aaron Donald, and probably guys like Michael Parsons, who's very good as an edge rusher as well. But who cares, bro? Like, he's getting to the quarterback. He's getting a ton of pressures. The Steelers still drop him back into coverage. Dude bats every ball known to man. Like, he forces turnovers. Like, he's an absolute menace. And he's paid. He's absolutely locked down. He doesn't have to worry about trying to go and get the bag. Like, he's healthy for the most part. He is the best defensive player in the league, and we're going to find that out officially tonight. And there, like I said, there's just no signs of him slowing down.
No, there's like literally zero signs of him slowing down. And I think what's the best part about the Pittsburgh Steelers is that they do not have a quarterback contract. And they're not going to have a quarterback contract for the next 4 to 5 years, which means for the next 4 to 5 years, and this is who the Steelers are. They'll pay Deontay Johnson $15 million a year. Nothing. They'll probably re-sign Pat Freiermuth when that comes around, but even so, that's not a ton of money. That Minkah is another one. Besides that, Cam at some point will likely, but his is going to be a team-friendly deal if he continues to play. And then they just have so much extra cap space to just say, yeah, we have to rebuild the offensive line. We also have to just completely dominate on defense because that's how we're going to win for the next 3 years, which means that you're probably at some point in this offseason going to find a defensive end to possibly replace Stephon Tuitt if you don't feel comfortable in him coming back. Yeah. You're also probably going to find somebody that you feel comfortable with playing alongside Tyson if you believe Tyson is coming back. If not, easily somebody to replace him. Chances are a new inside linebacker finds their way to Pittsburgh. Chances are a pretty high-end cornerback, wherever you find that, finds his way to Pittsburgh, along with possibly a Kello Witherspoon coming back. And then you go get a safety if you're not bringing Terrell Edmonds back. That's a whole new defense. That's a whole new defense with a lot of upside. And you can say whatever you want when TJ plays best, Joe Hayden and everybody else isn't letting nobody get to the quarterback, because that completely erases the whole, well, it takes a long time to get to the quarterback. Did you find that on PFF, by the way?
No, I didn't. I had a personal friend bring that up to me, and I'm like, really? And then he showed me a couple like of other tweets of people talking about it. And just like, there's no way a human being watches him play and says he takes too long to get to the quarterback.
Yeah. Nick's got a good question. Do you think we expect a Minkah deal this offseason? I think the answer is yes, but how do you expect that process to go?
I don't really know. I would definitely expect him to get a deal done before a guy like Deontay Johnson gets his extension. You definitely want to make sure that Minkah Fitzpatrick is playing center fielder for you for the long haul here in Pittsburgh. What those numbers are going to look like, I'm not quite sure. I don't think like re-signing Minkah is going to like break the bank kind of like TJ did, but like those are two different scenarios. Financially, I'm unsure what to expect, but I definitely do expect Minkah, or at least those conversations, to have had happened at some point throughout the offseason.
Yeah, I think that it gets done. I think that Deontay's deal is one that goes right up until the deadline. I think Minkah's deal is one that gets done relatively early. Like I think that, especially because talking to Minkah this year, he mentioned a couple of times, like, I paid as much attention as possible to TJ and the Steelers negotiating a deal. So now he understands. I also think the Steelers understand, and they're like, well, Minkah and TJ, say what you want, but they are the two most intelligent people on a football field, and they're also probably the two hardest working people on a football field, with Cam Hayward being like number 3. And all 3 of those guys deserve to be paid. The Steelers probably have zero worry that they're going to fall off. I think the bigger worry would be, Minkah, do you want Terrell Edmonds back, or do you want us to take a shot on another safety? And I still think chances are Minkah says, bring Terrell Edmonds back. A nice $3 to $4 million a year deal.
I'd be cool with that.
Right off into You know what I'm saying? Ride off. You could say whatever you want. Terrell Edmunds is a good safety, plays very well in the role that he's needed. And Terrell Austin taking defensive coordinator, you could expect the defense to focus a lot more in improving the back end, which also improves the front end, which could mean that Terrell Edmunds plays a role that doesn't leave him on guys that he is unable to cover. And
for the most part, God's ears, bro.
That's what I'm saying. For the most part, when he was on a guy that he could cover, he played well. I mean, he even played well on Travis Kelce for time to time in the playoff game. And you ask him to do too much, he's not going to do too much. But that's a lot of strong safeties in the NFL. That's just the way that they operate. So, yeah, I would expect the Minka deal to get done. Also expect TJ Watt to continue to dominate